Hey, what's up out there? This your boy Rare Breed. I'm here to give my analysis, my thoughts on the 2022 NFL Draft, New York Giants style. We over here very happy. I'm very happy today. I like what we did. Joe Shane, he's in charge, new regime. This is a year where we're going to stamp ourselves and set a foundation, set a foundation for what's to come in the future. This is a situation where we had to make some picks that were needs and also for the future. So let's get right to it. I love the pick of Kayvon Thibodel. Was an awesome pick. Was surprised he fell to 5. There was some draft rumblings here and there throughout weeks and months about maybe, some teams were turned off with his attitude and whatnot, but I'm more of a production guy, and he's productive. He was actually rated as one of the top 3 prospects going into the NFL draft process that started months ago. There was talk he could have been the number 1 pick. There was talk that he could have been, going to Detroit at number 2, based on how the board felt. But as you know, things can change here and there. Some teams prefer certain personalities, some don't. Now, the New York Giants, they're more of a conservative organization when it comes to those things. John Mara is a certain kind of an owner. He likes his players a certain way, But with a new regime, we are basically learning about them as much as any of the prospects. They come from a good organization in Buffalo where they helped turn around. You got Coach Brian Dable, came from Buffalo. You got Joe Shane, he was an assistant GM, helped scout over there. So we're learning them as much as we're learning these new prospects and players that they're interested during free agency. So I love the Kayvon Thibodel pick. I'm glad that they went with production, with talent. The man's first step is unbelievable. He's always been good at that in Oregon. He reminds me of O.C. Umenyiora when he was a New York Giant. And Giant fans, you know how good OC was. Quick first step, similar, But the only thing is, he might be a little better than OC versus the run. I love OC, but, he was a guy that was known to target the quarterback. Kayvon has it all. He can do it all. And it was great to see that the Giants didn't pass him up. I was at the draft party, and our attitude was maybe they're going to go take the best offensive tackle available. They had all their chances. The way the draft board ended up, hey, no one would have been shocked if we would have just took an offensive tackle at 5. There was Aquanu first as the top-rated guy, consensus top-rated guy. Then you had Evan Neal, and then you had Charles Cross. There was a lot of smoke about that, about which OT did they prefer. This was a masterpiece by Joe Shane in the sense of he waited and looked at the board and said, I can take my top offensive tackle now. But what if I do that at 7 and still get the guy I want, and I could just take the best player available at 5? That best player available was Kayvon Thibodel, and he's going to be a big difference maker for this team going forward. And also a little nugget, I love the fact from what I've read that Michael Strahan is going to mentor him and teach him some things, and especially on how to deal with New York with a big personality. So great to see. Love the pick. I give it an A+. Now, the next pick was at 7. Okay. And like I said, Joe Shane played it great. He saw that all the best offensive tackles available were available when they picked that 5. So there was no need to jump the gun and just grab one right away when you could have the best player available and still get your guy. They were obviously comfortable with who was left making that pick because Carolina came up 6, which was after 5 at us. They were targeting, there was rumors about quarterback. They were also targeting offensive tackle and a trade out. So when they did that, Joe Shane did that perfectly. He waited and got his guy, and his guy was Evan Neal. And let me tell you, he was my top offensive tackle in this draft. Played at Alabama. Played at Alabama, was a horse, was a monster road grader. Loved the tenacity, the way he played, moved guys around. But the biggest thing was, and you're going to hear me say this a lot about this draft class that Joe Schoen did, was versatility. Versatility. The guy loves versatility. You can tell throughout this draft as we get more into it when we talk about the other picks that he made. But when you talk versatility for a offensive lineman, that is Evan Neal. This guy can play guard. He's a role grader at guard. He played guard at Alabama, and he played both tackle on the line, both tackle positions, left tackle and right tackle. That was one of the things that I actually had a little pause and nervousness about which offensive tackle would end up being with the Giants before the draft process started, because, Ekwonu is a beast. Don't get me wrong, he's a beast, massive role grader. A lot of teams had him as the number one target and maybe the number one overall player in the draft, but he's never played right tackle much at all. Then you heard leaks throughout the weeks. Charles Cross, Giants love him. He's their preferred tackle. He's the guy. He's a tremendous pass protector from what I've seen. And in that offense with Leach out there that he played in, they passed a lot. But the caveat there is, and the issue there I had was he didn't run block much and he didn't play right tackle. Now, you saw videos over the weeks on the draft process. The Giants sent a contingent out there to work out, Charles Cross a lot at right tackle, and they loved him over there and stuff. But the point is that was working out. That's not game speed. That's not experience. And I'm a big experience guy if you're going to have a guy do that. We already have Andrew Thomas on the left side. He had a very good year. He's got to stay healthy, but he showed a lot of improvement from year one. And he's shown that he can play left tackle. Now you add Evan Neal, who, in my opinion, was my favorite pick in the draft. You add Evan Neal and put him at right tackle. Now you got some booking, quality, young stud tackles for the offensive line for the Giants. And we've been screaming as Giant fans for years, oh my God, this offensive line is so bad. David Gettleman, he kept saying he was going to fix this. Oh, hog mollies and all this other stuff. But what did he do? He didn't get the job done. He signed Nate Solder, was a bust. Okay. Don't get me started on that guy. Good man. I don't want to knock him. He's a good guy or whatever, cancer survivor, family and everything. But he was terrible. He was awful. It was the bottom line. We overpaid him. That was a massive mistake. So you think about this for a second, Giant fans. We went from Nate Solder to Evan Neal coming up this year for the future. I give that an A+ in my draft grade for that. Tremendous value to get him. There was talk Evan Neal might have been the number one pick. There was talk he could have been the number one pick overall when the draft process started. There was plenty of mock drafts and experts out there that loved Evan Neal that thought, hey, we're going to go and make him the number one pick, protect Lawrence out in Jacksonville. To get him at number 7 is a tremendous value, tremendous steal for the Giants, and I am very happy about that pick. And I love the fact that Joe Schoen is targeting the offensive line and the trenches overall. It's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful. Giants football is all about protecting the quarterback and getting after the passer. All our best teams in our history have been about that. And we need guys to do it. David Gettleman, he failed us doing it. Okay. A matter of fact, the only thing he really did good for us was get that extra number one pick so we can get Evan Neal now, as it turns out, as that 7 pick was in that Bears trade last year in the draft. So, it's a tremendous move. I love the move. A+. Whenever you can get 2 quality prospects, maybe the top 5 prospects at 5 and 7 in your draft, that sets a foundation. And that's what Joe Schoen is all about, and Brian Daboll are trying to do. They're trying to set a foundation for the New York Football Giants to return. It might not be this year. It might. It might not. Most likely it might not. There's other areas of need. But you know what? This was a great start to it. And I don't know any Giant fan that cannot be happy about how this first round went. Okay? So we go to day 2 and, round 2. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was a little shocked that we took this young man in round 2 so high, because there was a lot of mixed people that was mixed results on that, saying, oh, you could have had him maybe round 3, but credit Joe Shane for targeting the guy he wants, and for Brian Dable for targeting the guy he wants. And his name was Wandel Robinson. Now, the Giants traded back in this round. They were honestly supposed to pick 36, but they traded back a couple of times. And at 43, they took Wandel Robinson, wide receiver out of Kentucky. Now, from what I understand, he's a very competitive kid. He's undersized, but he's a very fast and very exciting player if you use him right in the offense. In my opinion, from what I'm seeing, from what I've read, and my thoughts are, I think Brian Dable probably pushed for this pick. They love the kid. They think he can work wonders in the offense. Reminds me, based on what I've seen, it reminds me of Kadarius Toney. And there was a lot of talk, the last week or two, that maybe the Giants were going to move on from Kadarius Toney. They were looking to trade him. I wasn't like in love with the fact of trading him, but I understand as a Giant fan, when you have a new regime and you have, your guys, you want your guys, you're taking over a new regime, a losing team, you're going to want your own foundation to start, and you're going to want your own players. Joe Shane and Brian Dable, they did not draft Kadarius Toney, and Kadarius Toney wasn't doing them no favors by not coming to get the playbook, by not coming to show up for voluntary minicamp when all the other veterans did. So, maybe it was a thing they try to shake him up, try to get him a little nervous and make him wake up, get more serious. Hey, it worked. He showed up last week, and I guess they're good with it. But this pick here for Wandel Robinson, he looks like a Kadarius Toney guy. Same kind of play. You can line him up in the backfield. You can line him up out wide. Mostly he's going to be slot, which is where he looks like he did the majority of damage. He's a weapon. Some have called him a gadget player. I don't call him a gadget player. I think he's more, you call him a weapon, because when he's on the field, as a defense, you have to figure out what is his deal. What is he going to do? Is he going to be in the backfield? Okay, if he's in the backfield next to the quarterback, what's he going to do? Oh, he might run it. Oh, they might throw it to him. He might get a little jet sweep. So you got to account for players like that, and that's the new NFL. You got to have that. There's a lot of the best offenses in the league. They have those kind of players, that they're versatile. Again, the key word, versatility. Versatility. That is what Joe Shane and Brian Dable want. They want versatile players for offense and defense. And that's what this draft is starting to be about here. So, I also feel like Sterling Shepard, they're doing the right thing with him, because you can't depend on Sterling. I love Shep. I love Shep. I love his toughness. I love his leadership that he shows for this team. I love the fact his skill set when he's healthy, but the problem is when he's healthy. Sterling Shepard is never healthy. He's had his body. He had some tough injuries over the last few years. His body's betrayed him. And they brought him back on a restructured deal. And a 1-year deal, basically, where I was a little shocked they even did that. I thought maybe it would have been it for him last year after the injury he had again. But the Giants are laying their foundation. They want versatile players, and they like Wandel Robinson. I think this kid is probably most likely going to have to be the heir apparent. He might be the heir apparent, to them. So, to Sterling Shepard. So, it's a good move. It's a good move. Time will tell how good it is. Honestly, I'm giving Joe Shane the benefit of the doubt on this one. They're the extras. Brian Dable's offense, he wants to run a certain offense. We're going to learn, as training camp comes, what they're trying to do. Obviously they're trying to cater to a certain offense to deal with Daniel Jones. So at the end of the day, this is a situation where Wandel Robinson, we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to wait and see. It might not be a huge impact first year. Get ready for that. It might not be huge. You might see him, get sprinkled in every week and build him up as much into the game plans every week as the season goes by, so we're going to have to wait and see on that, So I'm going to give this a B- for now, only because there was some players they could have had that were more highly rated. But you know what? Teams have needs that they attack, and they have their draft board. Not everybody's draft board is the same. They rated him higher. Brian Dable wants versatile, explosive players in his offense. So, hey, we're going to have to wait and see on that. So I'll give it a B- on that one, okay? Now we go to round 3. And, this was a situation from this pick. I just want to say there was some talk during the season, during the draft process, that they were saying that, there was a report, I forgot who it was. They said, the Giants sent a big contingent out to the North Carolina's pro day. Could they be targeting Sam Howell to replace Daniel Jones? Sam Howell, one of the top. This is not, by the way, this isn't a really good quarterback group in this draft, but they were saying Sam Howell was amongst those guys. So a lot of people, speculated that maybe, the Giants could be targeting Howell in the mid rounds, maybe, or round 2 or something. That's not what Joe Schoen and Brian Dable were doing. They were targeting their offensive linemen and skill players. And with the 3rd round pick they made at number 67, Joshua Azudu. Again, we go to versatility. This young man is a guard. He can play tackle. He's played tackle. There was times, from what I saw on his tape, on his highlights as well, that in the same series he would play guard and tackle from play to play. Play to play. One play on the drive, he'll be playing tackle. Another play on the drive, he'll be playing guard. Versatility. The guy's a run blocker. He looks like he can move people. And, looks like he's at pretty good value. He's athletic enough to play both positions. I think the Giants are going to use him at guard. He's going to compete for a starting job. Our offensive line isn't set. We're good at tackle for sure. Definitely. We're good at tackle. But this young man, Azudu, he's going to bring versatility that, God forbid, if it's an injury to one of our tackles, he can slide over, maybe, possibly, and hold it down. Or he's going to compete for a left guard spot. The interior of our line, we made some additions in free agency. Nothing crazy, nothing like, oh, man, they really paid a big salary. So, this is guys that can compete in training camp. We're going to see him compete. He could steal a left guard spot. He could steal a job. Why not? If he plays well enough, we're a young rebuilding team. We're in transition as Giants fans. We have to accept it. So this is a guy that's versatile and he's good enough to play it. Hey, I'm all for the pick, and I keep saying it, but versatility is the name of the game of this draft for Joe Schoen and Brian Dable. They want versatile players, and this young man right here is versatile on the offensive line. He can play guard and tackle. All right. So moving along at pick 81, Cardell Flott, cornerback, LSU. Another versatile player. He's played outside. He's played in the slot. There was a lot of talk that, if Sauce Gardner was available when the Giants picked, that he might have been the pick, with also James Bradbury's unknown status right now with the salary cap and an impending move on him. So, you kind of figured, you kind of thought, the Giants have to sooner or later take a corner, whether it be the 1st round or whether it be the 2nd round or whatever. There was a lot of talk in the 2nd round that maybe they would have took Booth from Clemson. But he went a pick before them, and they took Wandel Robinson. So to get Cardell Flott, who's an interesting player, he was a 3-star recruit, from Alabama, went to LSU. Really regarded as a nickelback. He's a nickel guy. He's played nickel corner, nickel safety role, So he's a guy that in Wink Martindale's defense, what you have to have is you got to have versatility, especially on the back end, because, he's going to run a lot of zero blitz. He's going to send a lot of guys after the quarterback. So you have to have corners and safeties who can cover one-on-one. So, I'm not surprised they made a pick sooner or later for a corner, especially with Bradbury's status unknown. So it was a good, I would say it's a solid, value there in the third round. Obviously Wink Martindale and Joe Shane, they like this kid. So we're going to see what he's about, He brings a lot of versatility in the back end. So we'll see. Wink Martindale's defense is going to be an exciting defense for us Giant fans to watch every week. And it honestly might be the best part of the team watching this coming season, So look out to see when they play this kid. Again, looks like a situation where he could, depending on the Bradbury news, whenever day that comes, that they make a move on him and release him or trade him or whatever they do with that situation to resolve it, he could play a big role in this defense, And corner has always been the toughest position to play in the NFL besides quarterback for a rookie. So training camp, we'll see more and more what this kid can do. But I like the move, good value in round 3, so we'll see. So I'll give this move a B. I'll give this selection a B, okay? Now we go to round 4. Now, round 4, because of all the trade backs that Shane did, we had a couple of picks here, and you think middle round, sometime during the draft, Giants will have to address some needs, maybe go running back, get another running back into the stable, with Saquon, being really the only bell cow guy we have in the backfield on the roster. So you think maybe round 4 and 5 will be the target. Maybe you'll look for a running back. Also, there was tight end. Now, the tight end room is not that good right now. It's not that good. Kyle Rudolph got released. He was a bust, probably over the hill. Another brilliant Dave Gettleman sign. We got him too late, obviously. So also Evan Ingram, who, many of us Giant fans were not in love with. Had a lot of talent, but he couldn't put it together. He left. Joe Shane did not bring him back. Brian Dable did not bring him back. He signed with Jacksonville. So we don't have a lot in the tight end room. So this pick here, Daniel Bellinger, I think was a very interesting trade, a very interesting draft pick because, he's a guy that at San Diego State that really didn't get a lot of touches with the ball thrown to him, similar to Rucker at Ohio State, who the Jets took a couple rounds before, but he's a guy that has talent. Very good run blocker is his MO. I even saw that Daniel Jeremiah liked him and thought he was a sleeper tight end prospect in this draft. Now, we've seen over the years, production as a tight end with pass catching doesn't necessarily mean they're going to not be good in the pros. It's more about talent, system they go to, and development. George Kittle wasn't huge in that when he was at Iowa. I can name a few others. And George Kittle's a baller. So, this guy right here, Daniel Bellinger from San Diego State, looks like he's a pretty interesting prospect, He's a very good blocker already, and from what I've seen of the tape and what I've seen with his highlight film, he's got some talent. He can catch the ball and make plays, but San Diego State really didn't throw him the ball a lot. They were a run-first team, and they didn't really go hard like that with throwing the ball to him. But he showed some talent, has some nice little plays there. So, he looks like an NFL tight end prospect. He really does. He really does if you look at his stature, He's really good. His numbers in 2020 were, he had 21 catches, 203 yards, 9.7 yards per play. Not really a lot there. But there was an uptick in 2021. Caught a career high 31 passes with 357 yards and 2 touchdowns. But again, like I said, doesn't necessarily mean that the guy can't develop into a pretty good, tight end in the pros in the right system. And obviously Joe Shane and Brian Dable think he can really help this team, going forward, whether it would be blocking and development over the years going forward as a pass catcher. So, he's a good player. Looks like a good prospect. He's a good blocker, which is something we definitely need. That is such an underrated thing about a tight end, especially an inline tight end who can block for the running game. How many times over the years have we seen Evan Ingram miss and whiff on blocks whenever they used him inside? Because they tried to force him to be a type of player that he isn't. He was a weapon to catch passes. Whenever you ask him to get on the line, he's whiffing on blocks, getting pushed back. This guy's not going to get pushed back. He's going to do his job, and we'll see about how going forward the development goes. So I'm going to give this a B- only because of the unknown, if he can, develop into a threat in the passing game at tight end. But good blocker, so we'll give him a B- on that one. And now with the next pick, this guy, I'm telling you right now, I like him. And I think this is an underrated, sneaky, good draft choice here for Wink Martindale and his defense. And his name is Dave Belton from Iowa. Safety, another versatile player. Versatility. Name of the game with this draft for Joe Schoen and Brian Dable. Another versatile player, He's a physical player, and looks like he could be a very good complement to Xavier McKinney in that back end safety position. He's a hitter. He's a guy he can ball hawk. That's another underrated play. But he also does well at the line of scrimmage. He's a good, solid tackler against the run. And he'll come and cover some tight ends. And in this NFL and nowadays, you have to have safeties that can stay with tight ends, because tight ends are weapons in this league. We seeing it every year, more and more. Tight ends fitting more of the tall wide receiver role. In the slot. In the back end, making plays downfield. You got to have guys, especially when you're running a Wink Martindale defense in that secondary. You got to have guys that can cover the back end, and he's a guy that has talent enough to do it. He's a ball hawk. He had 5 interceptions. 5 interceptions last year, 7 pass breakups. He's a guy that can definitely develop, and obviously Joe Schoen likes him a lot, enough with Wink Martindale to put him back there. So, he's a guy that's a very interesting pick. I think very good value in round 5 to get him. That to me, very good value. Sometimes you got to hit on guys. Sorry, not round 5, round 4, I should say. But very good value. I think he's gonna complement Xavier McKinney well if he develops. So we'll see how that goes. The next pick we had, it was in round 5, was Micah Mcfadden, inside linebacker at Indiana. He was a team captain, so, the Giants like that about him. Pretty good run blocker, did pretty good in his career. He had decent pass rush. He had decent pass rush ability in that Indiana defense out there. It says here he had 77 tackles, and, he had also 6.5 sacks. So, he's a guy that's gonna play, close to the line of scrimmage. But I could see him more as a special teams guy, for more or less, and give some depth in that linebacker room, because that's another area of need that the Giants have to address. Blake Martinez, is coming off of a major injury. Another guy who took a substantial restructure to come back to the Giants. And, then we got Tay Crowder back there. Not a lot in that inside linebacker room. So, I think this guy is going to bring some depth to the team, and see what they can do, develop. But I actually look at him more as a special teams core guy. That might be more of the way to go for him to make the team. He's a guy that we'll see what he can do, in training camp. Maybe they like him maybe there's some plays that Wink Martindale thinks he can use him in his scheme, that he can help the team, So as of now, I give that a C pick, because of that. It's a special teams move most likely, but we'll see. We'll see what he can do. Now, this move here, also, DJ Davidson out of Arizona State, defensive tackle. I wasn't in love with this pick, but we got to trust in the process. And Joe Schoen, he's a defensive tackle, more of a 2-down run stuffer. They got him in there. Gonna most likely bring some depth to the team. I think he's, I think he's what he is. He's a two down run stuffer, type of player. Not gonna wow you, not gonna like really push the pocket much to get into a quarterback's face to help. At the DT spot, maybe more of a nose tackle in his future. Who knows? But we'll see about him. We'll see about him. Coaches seem to like him. He had he had 12 starts last year, 57 tackles, 4 pass breakups. So, we'll see. We'll see what he good. We'll see what he can do. So we'll see what he can do. But mostly I felt like there was a little bit more on the board that they could have went a direction, maybe a running back for the running back room. So I wasn't really too thrilled with that pick or whatever, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Not every pick is going to be tremendous. Some players in the middle to late rounds are going to be for special teams. They're going to have certain roles that they like, or maybe projected players that coaching staffs and organizations want to see develop long term. It could be that they think he can be something later on. We'll see when he gets to training camp, when Wink coaches him up. We'll see about it. So I'll give it a C. All right. Another pick we had was another North Carolina offensive lineman. Marcus Mccathen. Again, there was a lot of talk out there from NFL Network. I think Rappaport said a few weeks ago during the combine and draft process and the pro day process that, the Giants sent a lot of contingent from the organization to go scout possibly Sam Howell at North Carolina's pro day. But now we'll find out that they didn't do it for him. They did it for their skilled players and offensive linemen. So Mccathen's a guy who was also another starter on that offensive line at guard, another versatile guy, he's a big guy, that's for sure. Moves people, versatile, more of a run blocker, so I think they basically felt like, hey, we can add more to the group. This draft was definitely about the offensive line. We take a lot of offensive line. I think 3 of them in this draft alone. So, they feel like maybe they can develop him, maybe be a guard of the future. You never know. Like I said, the center, the 2 guard spots are up in the air long term. They're not all slam dunk spots. Our tackles are set. We got our bookend tackles, which is the most important part of the offensive line, in my opinion, was, protecting your quarterback from both blind sides. They got that down with Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. So this is another guy who's going to come to camp. He's going to get a shot to play, and we'll see as the season goes along whether they feel like he's good enough to start, along with his teammate Azudu. So, looks like he's a big guy. He's a run blocker. Pass protection doesn't look like his biggest strength, but he's a downhill run blocker and brings toughness. And it's obvious what Brian Dable and Joe Shane want out of this offense. They want to have tough offensive line play and want to run the ball this year. So, hey, listen, I'll take him. I think it's pretty good value for where he was taken. So, I'll give this a C+ move. I'll give it a C+. I'll C+, only because we got to see how he fits into the plans with them. Okay, so the last pick was Darren Beavers. Now, let me tell you something. This guy from Cincinnati, by the way, this guy, I thought excellent value in the 6th round to get him. He's a pass rusher. He played pretty well on that Cincinnati defense. It got kind of lost in there with all the other talent they had with Sauce Gardner and all the other guys they had, and, Desmond Ridder, the starting quarterback. A lot of prospects, that was a lot of the talk. But this guy can rush the passer. He's pretty good. And I think this is an excellent value. Might be the biggest value of the whole draft out of all of our draft picks in this draft. I can see him getting on the field in a weak Martindale defense and some pass rush packages and see what he can do. He's a really good player. I'm going to give this a B+ because of the value getting him in the 6th round. He's a guy I actually thought could have went in the 5th, maybe sneak into the late 4th. They got him at the 6th. So kudos to Joe Shane on that, helping Wake Martindale out, getting him that. So I like that move. He's a pass rusher. The more pass rushers we can get. You look at the Giants roster, they need pass rushers. We don't have a whole lot in there that you can feel comfortable, say, okay, we're good in this. Adding a pass rush is a luxury. No, adding pass rush help is a necessity, especially the fact that we are strapped with the salary cap and didn't really go too hard on free agency, So overall, I'm going to give this draft a B. There's a lot of I would say, first of all, the first two picks were awesome. Those are foundation players. That's an A+. That made the draft right there alone. But as you know, there's more to a draft than just the first round. So you have to, judge throughout the draft. And I think there's some good value there. They target versatility. They like the fact that they got 3 offensive linemen in this draft, and they feel like they can be core pieces to this line and to this roster going forward. And we'll see. Joe Schoen has talked about it. The good teams always build from the draft and then plug in holes in free agency. You can't just always go free agency to plug a hole, because then things happen. You need sustainability. You need that. You need good draft rooms every year. You need to build your core of your roster from the draft. So this is the first year we're doing it. It's a solid draft. I give this draft a really good B+ on overall. Versatility in this draft. Offensive line, 3 offensive linemen. Hey, I don't know how any Giant fan can be mad that they took 3 offensive linemen in this draft. I mean, we've seen the struggles over the years, how bad our offensive line has been. And they were really bad last year. I mean, you could make the case last year we only had 1 offensive lineman. That was Andrew Thomas. So with the, injuries played a part also, but also the talent just wasn't there. It just wasn't there. So we got to trust the process as Giant fans. So I give this draft an overall B+. Obviously Kayvon Thibodel and Evan Neal will get the headlines, which they deserve. Excellent picks, getting them at 5 and 7. Kudos for playing chess by Joe Schoen by doing that. He could have easily said, hey, I can take any offensive lineman I want and take him at 5 and then risk somebody trading up and getting Kayvon Thibodel at 6. It was a risk. He played the chessboard beautifully. He took the best player available at Thibodel at 5 and got his guy at offensive line to address a big need at 7. Beautifully done. So overall, I give this a B+. Going forward, I think Giant fans have to understand, I saw a couple of people kind of complain about online, how it is online. We always going to get those kind of people that just say, oh, there was so much better players that we could have had, that we could have traded back and this and that. Listen, we have to trust the process. This is not an overnight fix. The offensive line was clearly the biggest target in this draft. Biggest target. They wanted to address it. They want to give a fair evaluation in their eyes, a fair evaluation of Daniel Jones. Now, me personally, I don't think Daniel Jones is the answer going forward, and I feel like declining his option was a good move. This is basically a prove-it year. This is a prove-it year, guys, for Daniel Jones. Prove-it year for even Saquon Barkley. These guys are going to be free agents going forward. And remember, new regime did not pick these 2 players. They are 2 core players on our offense. Unfortunately, that's the reality. And hey, you have to get a fair evaluation of Daniel Jones by building around him for this year. With the offensive line was in shambles over there. You have to do it. If you're not going to move on from him, you have to give him something to give a fair evaluation. Some of that was because they just didn't have the salary cap to make a move. We all know that. But if you're going to do it, and I understand what Joe Schoen and Dable are thinking, they want to give a fair evaluation of Daniel Jones, you get the offensive line together. They addressed it very much so this offseason. They picked up a guard from the Colts, a couple of other, free agents, not big-time free agents or whatever, but, some depth there with Garza and other guys. So, drafting 2 guards in the middle rounds is a good move by them. They could have went for the splash, but you know what? This is not a year to go for the splash, guys. It's not. We are setting a foundation. They have to do it. So, hey, I like the moves. I like it going forward, So we'll see more about what our Giants do this season, So a B+ for my grade. And I just want to let you guys know, if you like this video, Subscribe on the bottom of the page. Born for Sports. All right? And I'll see you later.